is obvious that's a negative relationship between taxes and business.
The government
currently working with the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, the Nigerian Stock Exchange, and others to assemble, as we just heard from the Director General of the Stock Exchange, a $600 million investment fund for the sector.
Nigeria offers a 3-year tax holiday to new investors into the country's mining sector.
Kidnapping. House of Reps meets with heads of security agencies and service chiefs. Also advocates posthumous award for MKO Abiola.
The information contained in it is for all Nigerians and must be communicated in good time to all and sundry in order to save lives and property from the effects of devastating flood that may occur, especially at the peak of the rainy season.
30 local government areas in 21 states put on flood alert as Hydrological Agency presents outlook for 2017 flood.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we focus on the national tomato policy.
Now, do you remember the lexicon tomato Ebola when total absoluta disease attacked the crop in 2015, causing colossal damage, leading to scarcity of tomatoes and subsequent rise in the price?
Of course, I do, Kirian, and certainly who wouldn't remember? We all recall how tomato, as it were, suddenly became a scarce or very lean item in various kitchens and in various dishes. And this is because the prices just simply skyrocketed, and this is ordinarily a very important vegetable in a wide variety of menus.
Yes, indeed it is important, Kingsley, because research by the Department of Agricultural Economics, University of Ibadan, indicates that tomato constitutes 18% of all vegetables consumed by Nigeria's estimated 180 million population.
Of course, you know, quite clearly we remember the outcry that followed the total absoluta that struck the vegetable growers at the time. It happened about 2 years ago, and that perhaps also explains the euphoria that has greeted the federal government's new policy on tomato. Now, the policy seeks to boost local production, improve the value chain, as well as ultimately attract more investment into the subsector.
Yes, indeed, Kingsley. The policy, which took effect last month, increased tariff on imported tomato concentrate, powder and the like from 5 to 50%, and also imposed additional levy of $1,500 on each metric ton of such products imported into the country.
Now, apart from increasing local production of concentrates as well as reducing post-harvest losses, the policy is expected to create some 60,000 additional jobs in the fresh fruit production and processing subsector. Now, Nigeria, of course, is set to import an average of 150,000 metric tons of tomato concentrate per annum, and the staggering value for this is put at least 170 million US dollars. And these are figures that experts believe should be spent in seeking to cultivate a crop in which the country has comparative advantage.
Exactly. And why Nigeria's tomato requirement is put at 2.3 million tons per annum, the country currently produces 1.8 million metric tons. But experts are quick to add that the policy will not only close the deficit, but also catapult Nigeria from a tomato importer to a major exporter in the next 18 months.
Well, observers are hoping so, but the fact is that in addition to the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, as well as Agricultural and Rural Development, plus Central Bank of Nigeria, the Bank of Industry, and the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration Control, that's NAFDAC, they're all implementing the policy on tomato. And so many are indeed hopeful that the policy, when fully implemented, will be a success.
Yes, without a synergy, it may not actually work out. Now, what is the new national tomato sector policy all about? How can it turn the fortunes of tomato producers in the country? Why are players in the sector excited about the policy?
All right, now these and other questions our guests will seek to provide answers to later on in the course of the program. I do not also forget the immense health benefits of tomato, particularly for men. It's really very healthy, experts say, for the prostate. And once you're above 40, you begin to get concerned about the enlargement, whether benign or cancerous, of the prostate. So this is Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live, as always, on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. My name is Kingsley Osadolo. Welcome to the program. And
Kingsley is also becoming a doctor lately.
No. I didn't say that. As I say, a physician.
And I'm Kirian Umayo, joining Kingsley to welcome you to the program. In the course of today's edition, we shall bring to you our companion segments, as always, which include a newspaper review, business, sports, foreign and entertainment news. But we are kicking off with the news, and Joseph Johnson is our guide. Hello, Joseph.
Hello, Kirian. Thanks for joining us on the news at this time. A three-day West Africa Mining Summit commenced in Abuja on Wednesday. Acting President Yemi Osinbajo, who declared the summit open, announced a 3-year tax holiday for new entrants into Nigeria's mining space as part of incentives by the federal government to attract new investors. This is in addition to the signing of a Memorandum of Understanding (MOU) with Morocco and China to leverage on the state-of-the-art technology for a rapid development of the sector. He said government projects an 8.54% growth rate for the sector by the year 2025.
As we just heard from the Director General of the Stock Exchange, a $600 million investment fund for the sector. Internationally, we have secured $150 million in funding from the World Bank for the mineral sector support for economic diversification, the MSSED, or MINDIVER.
The President called for a closer collaboration for regional government to develop and harness a wealth of the continent's mineral resources. In another development, government will henceforth deal decisively with anyone making hate speech that could lead to division or violence in the country. Acting President Yemi Osinbajo said this as he begins series of consultation with opinion leaders in the northern and southern states on the security situation in the country.
It's not a time to retreat behind ethnic lines. Moments like this are not for isolating ourselves. And I want to urge all of us who are here, and of course the entire Nigerian populace, that it's a time for us to come together and to work together. As a government, we're of course determined to ensure the unity of the country along the lines of our constitution. And I want to say that hate or divisive speech or divisive behavior, where it is illegal, will be met with the full force of the law. And I want to ensure that there is no doubt at all of the resolve of government to ensure that no one will be allowed to get away with making speeches that can cause division or that can cause violence.
The Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency has released the 2017 flood outlooks in Nigeria, putting 30 local government areas in 21 states on flood alert. Minister of Water, Resources and Rural Development Suleiman Adamu said the predictions are to alert Nigerians living along waterways to vacate.
You can see that the quantum of water on the surface of Nigeria is so much, and that is why everything must be done to harness this water and also allow the water to flow down the major channels and tributaries. And that here is where we as Nigerians have roles to play.
The information contained in it is for all Nigerians and must be communicated in good time to all and sundry in order to save lives and property from the effects of devastating flood that may occur, especially at the peak of the rainy season.
Now, in a bid to reduce the cost of 2017 Hajj for intending pilgrims in Nigeria, the Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs has suggested the need for federal government's concession with regards to the exchange rate of Naira to the US dollar. This was the recommendation at the committee's meeting with officials of the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria and private tour operators.
The airfare is determined by the number of days.
Processes of getting the carrier involved is through an advertisement and bidding.
Hajj Commission has nothing to do with our accommodation in Makkah.
We chose our services, we chose our catchers and everything.
No item contained in the Hajj fare is just fixed by the Hajj Commission without involvement of the state or without involvement of the tour operators, as the case may be.
We will be able to satisfy our conscience and be able to show to Nigerians that we are here to represent them.
Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has called on the federal government to confer a posthumous award of Nigeria's highest national award to late MKO Abiola. The legislators also met with heads of security agencies and service chiefs over what it described as the increasing cases of kidnapping in Nigeria.
For his unprecedented achievements, his contributions and sacrifice to the unity, peace, progress and development of Nigeria, Africa and indeed the world.
And I want to add that June 12th should be declared a public holiday by this country.
Who is not aware of the immense contribution that MKO Abiola made to national life?
All efforts are being made so that the lives and properties of Nigerians are secured.
And then there are some other grey areas that we are going to address this area.
The National Judicial Council says, based on the records of its internal disciplinary actions, it is wrong for any individual or group to say that the nation's judiciary has not been in support of the government's fight against corruption. Correspondent Femi Okewo reports that this is a reaction to the ongoing exchange between various arms of government on the recall of judges who were suspended following corruption allegations against them.
Allegation or is under investigation, then that judge has to step aside until it is completely clear.
Justice is rooted in confidence, and confidence is brought about by people trusting the system.
The judiciary is one of the last bastions of stability for this country.
And trial could not commence as stated in the case of former governor of Niger State, Dr. Muazu Babangida Aliyu, and the PDP gubernatorial candidate in the 2015 general elections. Umar Mohammed Natsko, as counsel to the second accused person, filed a preliminary objection challenging the jurisdiction of the court to try the case. Mukhtar Abubakar Wuwo reports that the two were arraigned before the court in April 2017 for alleged breach of trust, conversion of over 4 billion naira of the state government fund to personal use.
They came and filed a process which they headed second amended charge.
We had served them the processes on Thursday. We just wanted to include him in the charge and then proceed with the trial.
Now, more than 9,000 farmers in the Federal Capital Territory have been registered to benefit from the Central Bank of Nigeria's Anchor Borrowers Program, which offers single loan or single-digit loan to farmers to encourage food production. Acting Secretary, FCT, Agricultural and Rural Development Secretary Musa Aliyu stated this in a media briefing in Abuja to mark 2 years of the Buhari administration.
FCT enjoyed comparative advantage in the production.
Finally, a large number of Nigerians living with albinism have been facing stigmatization and other challenges as the world marks the 2017 World Albinism Day with the theme Advancing Renewed Hope. Aisha Uba Ali reports that complementing government's efforts at alleviating the suffering of albinos and support from families and communities top discussions to commemorate the day.
So the thing developed to a point that I can't sleep again, and I've been operated about 2 times, and this is about 3 times the thing still came out again. So I don't know what to do.
Because of my sister, he knows agree to take care of, to carry me to go to hospital.
And that's the news for now. Kieran and Kinsley will be back after these breaks. Stay with us.
If you hear a bomb explosion or gunshots of an active shooter, that might be a terror attack. At such times, always remember 3 action words: run, hide, report. Don't try to run towards the terror scene to save the situation, because there might be a second bomb blast or another attack. Run far away and take cover. Make sure you are safe first. Yes, it is in our nature to sympathize over the hurt, but remember, only trained personnel can help in such situations. When in a secured environment, promptly call relevant authorities and help will come. For anonymous reporting, call 09630-3250-5 or 0813-2222-106. If you see something, say something. Nigeria unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
To business now, experts converge on Abuja to dialogue on moving the mining sector forward as Nigeria steps up efforts to harness potential in the sector in line with the quest for rapid diversification. For details of this and more, let's join Leah Kaltung Babatunde.
Hello and welcome. It's time now to take a look at happenings within the Nigerian economy, and we'll begin right here in Abuja. The Nigerian mining sector, if properly harnessed, will give room for robust growth in the economy and improve participation in the capital market, which has witnessed rapid growth in recent weeks. Director General of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, Oscar Onyema, at the ongoing West African Mining Summit, said the sector presently accounts for 0.02% of exports, 0.3% of national employment, and contributes a meager 0.5% or $2 million to national GDP, clearly not in line with the contribution of this valid sector to other mining economies. He said the exchange provides opportunity for financing of capital projects and expansion in that sector.
The exchange also looks forward to working closely with the Ministry of Mines and Steel Development towards achieving its mandate of establishing a $600 million investment fund for the sector.
Sectoral distribution of value-added tax VAT data for the first quarter of 2017 reflect that the sum of 204.77 billion naira was generated. Data from the National Bureau of Statistics reveal the figure was against 207.35 billion naira generated in the fourth quarter of 2016 and 186.43 billion naira in the first quarter of 2016, meaning it decreased quarter-on-quarter by 1.25% and increased year-on-year by 9.84%. Other manufacturing generated the highest amount of VAT with 28.73 billion naira generated and was closely followed by professional services and commercial and trading. They both generated 20.82 billion naira and 12.89 billion naira, while mining generated the least and was closely followed by local government councils and textile and garment industry. Authorities in the built industry, especially within the Federal Capital Territory, are harnessing opportunities in the real sector to actualize the Housing for All initiative of the present administration through advocacy campaign around the 6 area councils. The innovation is with a view to arming workers, especially those at the bottom of the cadre, with the necessary information towards achieving self-sufficiency in shelter as a human development index.
During the previous time, there was no explanation to this extent. We are looking at it as if another way of siphoning money from the civil servant.
Have a better record in place over the period of time, and we have also had like a task force to make sure that all the records that were manual before has been put into those systems.
The kind of response we've been having, it is very, 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 very encouraging.
Any form of transaction under the new initiative, both officials and beneficiaries say, stands on a solid foundation in view of the effectiveness of various anti-graft agencies. Now, moving on, the Nigerian stock market recorded losses for a second day in a row Tuesday as equities lose steam. The all-share index declined by 0.28%. Let's take a look at graphic summary of closing figures from the NSE. That is business news for this hour. Thank you for watching.
Thank you very much there, Leah Katung Babatunde, for the business news on Good Morning Nigeria. Next for us, we'll go to the front pages of some of today's newspapers to check out the headlines.
And our newspaper reviewer, Bayo Altebi, is in the studio. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria, Bayo.
Thank you, Kirian. Good morning. Good morning, Kingsley. And good morning, Nigeria.
Maybe just a little kickstart.
Yeah, we'll kickstart the lead story on the front page of the papers that I have, of course, is virtually the same. It has to do with the meeting between the acting president and northern leaders, as well as, of course, incidents of raging hate speech in the country. Let's go to this day with the lead story. This day says, Oshibanjo meets northern leaders, cautions against hate speech. And you have 3 riders to that. It says, orders security chiefs to protect lives of Nigerians and to meet leaders from Southeast today and traditional rulers on Friday. And says it's improper for National Assembly to introduce new projects into budget. You can see the photograph on the front page of this day there, showing some of the northern leaders who were present at the meeting with the acting president yesterday. Deputy chairman of Arawa Consultative Forum, that's Paulo Nongo, and chairman of ACF, that's Arawa Consultative Forum, Ibrahim Kumasi, himself former Inspector General of Police, as well as Air Vice Marshal Mukhtar Ahmad. It's a member of ACF. As I said, the story is the lead on the front pages of other papers. I have it on leadership, is the lead story there. I also have it on the front page, it's also there right on the front page of Daily Trust. It's also the lead there. It's couched this way. Ultimatum, that's the kicker for Daily Trust. Oshibanjo meets northern leaders. And then you have ultimatum, Oshibanjo meets northern leaders. And then you have an elaborate photograph there showing some of the northern leaders who were present at the meeting yesterday.
Yeah, in fact, as you rightly mentioned, all the newspapers have that as headlines. We have a blueprint here. Also where the acting president says we will deal decisively with agitators. Shebajo warns. With the two riders there, he meets northern leaders, or met northern leaders yesterday. I'll be meeting Southeast today. Then Igbo needs Nigeria more. That's Okorocha there, the governor of Imo State. The full text of that is on page 6 of Blueprint. Just above the name plate, we have, above the headline actually on Blueprint, we have some stories there. APC will exist for 200 years, says the presidency. That's on page 6. The writer, we won't make PDP mistakes, says Oyegu. Oyegu is actually the chairman of the ruling APC. Just below that, on the towards the left, we have $50 billion aids enter Africa annually. That's according to German lawmaker. The full text of that story is on page 5, and followed by 70% of Kaduna women, they give birth at home, says the commissioner. But perhaps it must be the commissioner of health in that state. The story is on page 15 of the Blueprint, and below that, Katsina screens 3,000 applicants for teaching, on page 13. And on Hajj Fair, Senate seeks 200 naira to a dollar exchange rate. That's on page 16 of a Blueprint. And again, trailer crushes Keke Napep operator in Owerri, the capital of Imo State. The story is on page 15. And now, below the photograph on a Blueprint, we have a federal government to extradite Aduke, others over $1.1 billion Malabo scam. Full story on page 13 of Blueprint. Maybe Bio should come in here at this point here.
Yes, like you pointed out, the story that has dominated all the papers is the categorical warning given by the acting president, and he says government will clamp down on all those beating the drums of war in the country. The papers reported it differently. The point says anti-Igbo threat. Osibajo vows to clamp down on troublemakers. The New Telegraph says Osibajo warns northern elders, Arewa youth, and IPOB. And the Daily Trust reports that the meeting was over the perennial agitation for Biafra and last week reaction by northern youths asking Igbos to vacate the nation. The vice president was emphatic. He said, while some might say the ultimatum should be ignored, it is important to address it promptly. Government will not tolerate any attempt by anyone to disrupt the peace of the country. And as part of living together, misunderstandings and frustrations will normally arise. But we can only talk about part of anything if we are together in peace. I want to say, hate and divisive speech is divisive or divisive behavior wherever they occur are illegal and will be met with the full weight of the law. No one will be allowed to get away with making speeches that can cause division or that can cause violence. The northern elders were reported to have called on government to assert its powers by taking action against whoever violates the law. They say they are very unhappy that their counterpart from the southeast failed to rein in some of their youths who are constantly calling for the breakup of the country. So let the wise hear. The other story which also came from the acting president yesterday was while he flagged off the signing of the budget 2018, he indicated that actions will be carried on to ensure that the budget 2018 is set on very quickly. And he raised an issue that this is to enable the National Assembly complete appropriation by December so that the budget can return to the cycle of January to December. But that was not the issue. He raised the critical issue. He says, National Assembly has no right to introduce new projects or modify those contained in an appropriation bill. There are no broad issues about who can do what. When budget is presented to National Assembly, it is as a bill and an appropriation. Secondly, they should not introduce entirely new projects or modify projects. This was the experience of last year and again this year. It now leaves the question, who is supposed to do what. However, Daily Trust reports that a ranking senator of the National Assembly has opined that the National Assembly acted within its provisions of the Constitution. It says the constitutional right of the National Assembly to appropriate funds. The Section 4 of the Constitution spells out the powers of the legislature, Section 5, the powers of the executive, and Section 6, the powers of the judiciary. And whenever there is such a constitutional issue between the legislature and the executive, the judiciary should come to rescue by interpreting.
All right, indeed, that was the topic for discussion on Good Morning Nigeria yesterday. We had guests, and also former members of the National Assembly, as well as an incumbent member of the National Assembly. They trashed that issue. It's a raging one. It will continue to crop up from time to time until, of course, the matter is settled, as you have indicated, by adjudication. Daily Trust, very quickly, below the nameplate, Nigerians can vote APC out if it fails. That's according to Oyegun. It says Nigerians can vote APC out if it fails. Oyegun, that's there. And then, of course, the foot of the front page, you have a window of other headlines, including the one that Bayo just discussed. National Assembly has no powers to insert projects. Details of that can be found on page 3.
And all right, quickly too, on New Telegraph, apart from the headlines that appeared on all the newspapers, Shibajo wants Northern Elders, Arewa Youth, and APO. Now, let's go to the photograph there on the left side. It's a very interesting one. A quote from Daily Mail of London. Alakija's son spends 2 billion naira on wedding. That's on page 2. And below that, billionaire kidnappers, informants are traders, according to sources, as police recovers foreign currencies in the Lagos mansion of the billionaire kidnapper.
All right, and just lastly, Bayo, because we are pressed for time now, back to this day, above the nameplate, it's a reaction to a story that, of course, was reported yesterday. NPAN, that's the headline, above the name flag of this day. NPAN asks federal government to rein in EFCC, says agency is cowering free speech. Details of that story can be found on page 10.
Yes, just quickly to the story that Kirian just read, that the alleged master kingpin of kidnap, Chukwudi Onwamadike, is reported to be naming high-profile persons that were his accomplices. Already, the security agents are said to be on the trail of those persons named in Edo State, Abia, and Anambra State. However, he has also given another information, that he got most of his information about his victims from Facebook, where people post information about their profile, close friends, and families. And therefore, be wise. Be cautious about what information you post on the Facebook. It is information that will put around the world about all your livelihood and your contacts.
All right. At this point, we'd like to...
we should appreciate Bayo. I mean, it's...
Bayo, thank you very much for being part of our show today.
Thank you.
And just as always, thank you indeed. Now, we take a short break. Good Morning Nigeria returns in a moment.
The Future Assured project of the wife of the president, Aisha Muhammad Buhari, is carrying out free medical screening and distribution of food items at various IDP camps while ensuring the economic empowerment of women through training and skill acquisition. In recognition of her efforts, wives of governors have lent their voices and support.
In Kogi State, we feel the impact of Future Assured, especially in women and children.
The Future Assured program of Mrs. Aisha Muhammad Buhari, the wife of the president, has been very assuring and still reassuring in Sokoto State. It has impacted positively in the areas of humanity, especially women and children.
Supports the Future Assured initiative. Email programs@futureassured.org.ng. Future Assured, promoting and protecting the lives of Nigerian women and children.
right, you're welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now, we indicated, of course, we'll be discussing this morning the new tomato policy already unfolded by the federal government. To set the stage for our conversation, let's join our correspondent Ngozi Chule for a background report.
With tomato cultivated in major northern states of Kano, Taraba, Gombe, Bauchi, Kaduna, Sokoto, Zamfara, Katsina, and Jigawa, Nigeria is ranked the 16th country on the global tomato production scale. Though producing about 80% of all tomatoes in the country and providing about 2% of total world tomatoes production, the country still loses about 45% of the tomatoes due to poor food supply chain. This invariably has resulted in Nigeria importing an average of 150,000 metric tons of tomato concentrate per annum, valued at $170 million, mostly due to inadequacy in capacity to produce tomato concentrate. Now, for a country rich in tomato production and yet a major importer of the same product, this was not acceptable. Recognizing the need to turn the trend, the Buhari administration announced a new policy to protect the more than $180 million Nigeria's tomato industry. The new policy aims at boosting local production, improving value chain, curtailing post-harvest loss, and attracting investment into the industry. To further encourage local production and discourage importation, the new policy imposed tariff on importation of tomato concentrate, among others, from 5 to 50%, with an additional $1,500 per metric ton. The new policy, which is at the core of the Nigeria Industrial Revolution Plan, NIRP, aims to prioritize agro-allied businesses with a ban on the importation of tomato paste, with a Made in Nigeria initiative being pursued to stimulate local production, create employment, and encourage patronage of Made in Nigerian goods and services. This policy also hopes to accelerate the growth of manufacturing and ultimately deepen diversification. But central to this is how effective will the policy address the issue of post-harvest loss, transportation and storage facilities. Will the conducive environment and adequate funding for local manufacturers and small and medium enterprise be scaled up? For better insight on these and other pressing issues on the new national tomato policy, join us as guests on Good Morning Nigeria Race Views.
All right, thank you very much there, Ngozi Chule, for that background report. Now we have guests with us here in the Abuja studios as well as at two network centers to join us in this conversation. First, we'd like to welcome Dr. Abdulrazak Oyeleke. He's Assistant Director in charge of Horticulture at the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development. Dr. Oyeleke, I'd like to have you join us on the program.
Thank you for having me on this program.
Okay, and then we also have with us here in the Abuja studios Mr. Kaude Oluwasomi. And Mr. Oluwasomi is a greenhouse tomato farmer. Mr. Oluwasomi, I'm delighted that you're with us on the program today.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. And joining us from our Kaduna Network studios, we have the Secretary of the Tomato Growers Association of Nigeria and Chairman of the Kano State Chapter, Alhaji Sani Danladi. Alhaji Danladi, it's a delight to have you join us on the program this morning.
From our Lagos studio, Sani Dangote, Vice President, Dangote Group, and Chairman, Tomato Processing Plant. It's a pleasure to have you, Alhaji Dangote, in our program this morning.
Good to have you too. Thank you.
And all right, we also have in Lagos Chief Eric Umofia, a manufacturer and producer of tomato paste. We are pleased to have both of you on the program this morning.
Thank you.
All right, for a start, Kinsley, let's find out what this policy is all about from Dr. Razak Oyeleke.
Thank you. The federal government of Nigeria recently rolled out a number of policy measures to be sure that Nigeria is self-sufficient in food production, particularly in the production and processing of tomato in Nigeria. Probably I share with you some of the overriding objectives that necessitate these policy objectives. The federal government has the intention of tapping maximally abundant potentials we have in tomato industry in Nigeria. And it is the intention of the federal government to, first and foremost, boost the food security status of all Nigerians by making sure that Nigeria have wholesome food to eat. And number two, it is the intention of the federal government to attain 100% import substitution come year 2018. That is why the Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Chief Adu Ogbe, is currently leading a national campaign to make sure that come 2018, Nigeria is self-sufficient in the production and processing of tomato. And number three, objective is to enhance the livelihood of many Nigerians by empowering them to go into tomato production and processing. And the last, which is perhaps the most important one, is to generate as much as 3 million direct and indirect jobs in tomato industry alone in Nigeria. I'm going to these policy measures now. Number one is that the greenhouse equipment is now listed among agricultural equipment that we henceforth attract a zero tariff in Nigeria, zero duty. And this is to give big relief to many Nigerian farmers who would like to complement the open feed production with in-house green feed production of tomato. Number two policy is to ban the importation of tomato paste and tomato single and double concentrate and finished product of tomato, so that Nigeria will not become a dumping ground.
Is it a total banning, or are you placing a high tariff on that?
Let me come. Just listen to me. Because there's a thin line drawing on the ban, total ban on single and double concentrate, and a leeway of putting a barrier in form of tariff on triple concentrate. It is the triple concentrate that is not totally banned. So there is a ban on importation of tomato paste and other finished product of tomato, so that Nigeria will not become a dumping ground, as I mentioned. Number three, there's a ban on tomato that is produced and prepared or preserved with acetic or vinegar. Number four, there is imposition of higher tariff now, increase from 5% to 50% on tomato concentrate. And additional import levy of $1,500 per metric ton of tomato triple concentrate. And number five, the importation of this concentrate is restricted solely to the seaport now, so that we check possible abuse of ECOWAS trade liberalization scheme, so that our neighboring West African country is now violated under that scheme. So every importation of concentrates is restricted to seaports.
How does the policy address the stimulation of domestic production to account for what will no longer be imported or what's been placed under ban now?
So let me mention the last one so that you know how quickly there's a correlation between the policy and the felt needs of all the stakeholders in Nigeria. The last one is listing production of tomato and processing. Among the firms and industry that we enjoy the benefit of investment incentive being administered by the NIPC, Nigerian Investment Promotion Council. So you can see a correlation. If we ban the importation of tomato products and we put incentive on the investment so that you invest and you are given some leeway like tax rebate, that one will encourage the investor to come in and make more money in tomato industry. And if we allow, for instance, listing the greenhouse equipment is there to bear the witness that there's a big relief now in the importation of greenhouse equipment. Before, it was not listed among the agricultural equipment that we enjoy zero duty. But now, with this zero duty, there's a kind of relief for the investor to bring in at lower cost.
All right, Dr. Oyeleke, well, we'll go over to Lagos shortly, and I'm sure that Alhaji Sani Dangote will tell you what the experience has been with regard to the tomato processing plant that they had in Kano. The question I asked you is, you've listed some of the aspects relating to fiscal measures that the government has enunciated in the tomato policy. Now, on the production side, first, before you start having your concentrate, of course, you will have to explain what you mean by single, double, and triple concentrate. Nigerians just see, so-called tin tomatoes or tomato paste, and then they utilize it. So, but on the side of seeking to stimulate local cultivation, how does the policy address this? What is there for the farmers? You've talked about greenhouse. I mean, before we started having greenhouse equipment, people were cultivating tomatoes.
Yes.
And then the greenhouse equipment had nothing to do, I mean, to the best of our knowledge, with tomato Ebola, that's Absoluta, that crept up a couple of years ago.
Okay. Yeah, they are right on point. The policies are being supported by a number of programs being championed by the Federal Ministry of Agriculture. Number one, we have GS, Growth Enhancement Support Scheme of the federal government. Through this scheme, farmers are being assisted with critical inputs of seeds, fertilizers, and agrochemical. So with this one, and this is targeted at low-scale farmers in Nigeria. So the farmers are listed, and they are enjoying this benefit through the Growth Enhancement Support Scheme of the federal government. Number two, lately the federal government, through the initiative of CBN and the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, is having Anchor Rural Program. Anchor Rural Program will address the needs of all the stakeholders along that value chain, starting from farmer production, processors, and the marketers. So in the Anchor Browse program of CABN and Federal Ministry of Agriculture, farmers are to be listed as outgrowers to a particular anchor, which in case may be Dangote, for instance, a processor, or a Risco, or Integrated Savannah in Adamawa, or Dangote in Kano. So these anchors are being identified, and they will be supported with necessary resources and funding, so that they will be the one that will provide critical input for the outgrowers. And the outgrowers will be relaxed because they have their ready market for them after production.
All right.
That is a good approach to addressing most of the concerns of Nigerian farmers.
All right. Thank you. I hope that the processors will not will allow us to also have the fresh ones that we need to do our normal cooking. Now to Lagos. Because the two personalities we have in Lagos have been in this business for a while. Eric Umofia, I've followed you over the years, for the past 30 years. You have been a man who is interested in local manufacturing or local production. You've done that with fire extinguisher, and now you are in tomato business. Now, both of you will come in here, one after the other. I'd like to start with Eric Umofia. Now, this policy, as reeled out by Dr. Oyeleke, I wonder how you feel about it, about the entire package. What do you make of this new policy on tomato? Well, after you, then Dangote can also talk to us on this. What's your take in the new policy that has been reeled out, and of course, with Nigerians are also commending, at this point in time?
Well, the policy is a welcome issue. It's excellent. We're happy with it. Only that for me, I suggested for total ban, even with concentrate, not partial. Because I have no reason whatsoever to continue to import and create jobs overseas and impoverish our own people here. And our economy is suffering because for the fact that we want to eat foreign products, it has make no sense. But now we commend the President Buhari's government and acting president for making sure that this policy are put in place. We are happy. We thank Minister of Trade, that of Agriculture, and other people, Governor of Katsina and other governors that have been making sure that jobs are created for this country and other stakeholders. The policy is only the best option we can get before if we can move this country forward and export and earn foreign exchange from tomato in this country, just like other countries. We thank God that this country is blessed with good weather, arable lands, and only country among few countries that can produce harvest tomato twice a year without problem. China and Europe cannot do that, but unfortunately we are importing products from them. We should be ashamed of ourselves that we can never be happy with our own thing. We are not proud of Nigeria. I don't know why people are very interested in developing other people's economy and continue to cry that we are not doing well. If only government will ban total food, everything food in this country, importation banned. We should look inwards and eat what we have. And this system, government have done this one well. We urge government to implement more. The system are not allowing us to have benefit of this country. The system should support indigenous and foreigners alike, genuine ones. But they drive joy in supporting only foreigners, and what we have here, we are going to exploit. They have not asked us, what can we do to make this country proud? We are ready. Only now that this government of Buhari started to change to make things better. That's why I ask Nigerians to please give this present government a chance. They will turn this country for better, based on this step they are following. If we don't do that, even we, our own self, you in your family, are we Nigerians, are we proud of ourselves? Why must I be proud with a coat? Sweating like he goat. While Nigeria own is beautiful, happy. I should be happy with our own thing. We should be happy with whatever we are having here in this country. We should eat what we have. President Buhari said, eat what we have, produce what we need. If we are happy, actually, that this country will be delivered out of this poverty, ban food 1 year, we will repair our hospital, repair our roads, everything will be right. I don't know why the support will be given to foreigners. We indigenous factories are crying. The financial system are supporting people that are trying to cripple this country year in, year out. We that are sacrificing for this nation are being punished more every day. How do people that are importing goods are being given support financially, dollar-wise? Yet we continue to cry for this nation. We should work for better issue in this country. What for our children? This tomato policy is just the beginning. If government go furthermore, every food item should be banned. We will not talk of light problem again, because we will generate the bigger amount of money from export. we can export in this country of tomato and earn all the money in all the West African countries up to the Middle East. But when you have not given us support, like me now, I have machineries I paid for deputies for 1 year now. I couldn't get foreign exchange to do them. How can I do if you don't support us? If you make the policy as it has been done now, we are not giving money to import some machinery to meet up all our plans is zero. So I thank government, we're happy with government policy, but the system, presidency is never a problem anymore in this country because you cannot bribe them. It was before when they are bribing them is problem. Now no more bribing from presidency. The bribery system is in between now the system. And that's why I still having problem. Until we decabard the bribe. So if bribe is dead, we Nigerians will need this country. For nobody can love this country better than us. We Nigerians. That's why I've been campaigning for years. And people are not hearing. Rather than supporting me, I'm being punished for saying the truth. But with President Buhari and his government now, we are seeing them. There's a light at the end of the tunnel by the grace of God. Very soon, we will know the impact of what they are doing now, that Nigeria will have no other option than to join the train of we, Nigerian first. I support the government and what they did. Thank you very much for now.
All right, let's hear from Sani Dangote there. He's smiling away. Perhaps Mr. Chifumotwa may have spoken his mind. Sani, what's your take on this?
Before now. But we welcome what the government has done. We believe with this right policy in place, the most important now is how do we ensure full implementation of this policy. We know that initially this policy is supposed to have been effective right from February. Then government, for some bureaucratic process in the Ministry of Finance, had it delayed until they came back in March and still gave them another 30 days notice to the ECOWAS, which we told them that there was no any producer of tomato concentrate in any ECOWAS country except Senegal that does very little to its own demand. Secondly, after the policy now, they've still been giving another 90 days. Now our worry is about 90 days will probably expire by next month to say exhaust all your established from M. But we are also aware that there was no any approved from M for the last almost 2 years since Central Bank put it under the 41 items. Now all these issues are all the bureaucratic issues that we believe tends to, kind of discourage this policy from being effective. So now all these importers are busy stockpiling tons of tomato concentrate in their warehouses. Now, giving example of our own factory, we have produced this year, and we still have product in our own warehouse where none of the packages are willing to uptake. Very few of them, only 2 companies have come forward and bought from us. They paid the right price, that is good. It's still cheaper than the current level of the levies that the government has imposed on the new policy. Much, much cheaper, probably about 20% cheaper. But you can see that none of them is rationed even for local the product, not because of quality or anything, because they have overstocked their warehouses. So what we are calling the government to do is to ensure there's a proper monitoring and evaluation of this policy, because we know all the packaging companies, tomato, good thing about tomato concentrate, you must process it to package it into sachet. If that is the case, it means that there has to be a proper monitoring of all the packaging companies by knowing their inventory, their documentation, and what they import and what is the stock level they carry all along through the period. Otherwise, we know that this policy would be, it's in place, but tendencies of being abused or put to less effect, is there. Now, going forward to the effect of this policy on the farmers, we, from our own side, have got already over close to 5,000 outgrowers lined up, where we have outlined their farms. We already put in process now to put a greenhouse for seedling, which will give farmers an early opportunity to plant earlier, and they will be able to have at least twice in the year a season to grow tomato. Secondly, with the outgrowers that we have in place, and with the scheme which is supported by Central Bank on the outgrower program. We believe with the next season we should be able to add almost 2 million tons on top of what currently is produced in Nigeria by the next season, which means we're putting around over 3,800 hectares in actual additional cultivation of tomato. And going by an approximate between 70 to 80 tons, we expect there should be over 2 million additional tomato. So the gentleman asking about whether there will be fresh tomato in the market, the idea is to encourage fresh tomato production and also encourage production that will service the fresh market and also service the industry. We believe that with this additional volume, our industry will get enough volume to process, and also there will be sufficient volume to supply into the fresh market. So for the industry, it is dual way. Unless fresh tomato is at lower value, the industry will not make money. So for us, it's a two-way traffic. We must ensure there's a lot of production in the fresh tomato, and to be able to get fresh tomato lower prices, then the industry can uptake at the market price. We believe that Nigerian will see a much lower price. We know that some of the packaging companies were crying, oh, it is not a good idea. I have said to many of them, every one of them that can come out and say that they're not going to make money, even with this policy, I dare them to say, bring your factory, we will process in your factory and pay your packaging fee, and we'll still retain the same current price of tomato paste in the market. Most of them are crying not because they are not going to make money. Even with the levy, they are going to make still much more than 30% from my calculation. And everybody can do the math. At what price are they selling the paste? They are selling it between 70 to 100 naira, depending on the brand. Now, when you do the numbers by 70 grams of that value, by 1.3 million grams in the 1 ton that they add 30% of water into it, you would definitely see that they make still a lot of money. They are not going to make as much as they used to when they were making about 300-400%, but now they probably make less than 40%. It's still much more than enough compared to many other products in the market. So why are they crying? This policy, like what Chief Eric said, should have been banned completely, but due to some reasons, government felt, well, let's give them a room to still import a triple concentrate. And another issue about what is triple concentrate, there's the difference. It's just a matter of concentration you decide to do in the process, whether you do a single, which gives you 14, or you do triple, double, which gives you 28 bricks, or you do, triple, which gives you 36 bricks. It's simple as that. So you choose what you want to do. So I believe that the government of the President Buhari is quite on course, and we believe we can trust them. They've said they will do it, and they've done it well for the good of Nigerians. Like we've always said, if we rely on ourselves, we work hard, we should be able to be self-sufficient, and we believe that the aim of government to be self-sufficient in a year or two is realistic, and we should be able to do that. We, on our side, if the government maintains and sustains this policy, believe by 2019 we should triple our size in production. Currently we are doing 1,200 tons per day. We believe we should be close to 4,000 by 2019. And help us, we will definitely be able to achieve these numbers. And we believe that all Nigerians should put hands on the deck to ensure they patronize the 100% Nigerian tomato with no any additives. Everybody knows that there is so much report from NAFDAC of imperial quality being imported, with all kinds of adulteration with food-grade starches and so on. But this is 100% Nigerian produce. And also there's no starch, because even cost of starch is much higher than the tomato. So we have no option then to, even if anybody wanted to adulterate, had no option to do that. And that's a good thing. For Nigerians, they will have 100% tomato for the first time, which is healthier and much better and fresher. Between farm to the process, it's a matter of 2 days. And I believe that we should work hard to ensure that we make our country great again. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much there, Alhaji Sani Dangote, as well as Chief Eric Umofia, speaking to us from our Lagos Network studios. We'll return to you, gentlemen, later in the course of this conversation to deal with some of the matters pertaining to the new national tomato policy. But let's come back to our Abuja studios, where we earlier introduced Mr. Kayode Oluwasanmi, a greenhouse tomato farmer. But let's have your take on what the new policy seeks to address. What are its advantages and what are the likely shortcomings?
Thank you very much, sir. First of all, I want to congratulate the Buhari administration for putting up this policy. But my worries is a government-driven policy without the input of other stakeholders. It's a matter of time, because those farmers on the field, they are the one that knows exactly what they are going through. But nevertheless, the beauty of the policy on paper, we hope that will drive us to the desired destinations. Again, the policy, when I was going through, is devoid of strategies to combat associated diseases with tomato, because tomato production is such a very sensitive business. They are like babies that you have to pay total attention to, making sure that you deploy the right nutrient at the right time. A day omission to deploy what you need to deploy for tomato production can lead to total disaster. So, as beautiful as the policy is now, I also look forward to a situation whereby the policy will begin to put up a task force that will look into all the pathogenic problems associated with tomato production. So, and as a matter of fact, all the introduction of duty-free on importation of greenhouse, I believe, is going to make it possible for a lot of new entrants into the production of tomato. One other thing which I also look forward to, about a year back, we proposed to Federal Ministry of Agriculture to adopt what we call catalytic model greenhouse program, which we cut across every sector, especially the civil servants that are close to retirement, to be able to acquire greenhouse to be able to go into tomato production and other vegetable horticultural crops. Again, they started and it was planned that Nigeria Prison Service, that has farms across the nation, and the NYC will be co-opted to set up greenhouse catalytic model farms, which will become a resource center for prospective farmers that want to go into horticultural crop production. So the policy is good, it's welcome, but again, there could be a stakeholder meeting where certain things can also be introduced. It should be dynamic. It should be dynamic. It should not be cast on stone. From time to time, it's because policies are not frequently retuned. That is why it outstays its efficiency. So I look forward to a situation where stakeholders can also be convocated to review this policy.
Yeah, just before we talk about policy review, we're still examining the broad outlines of the policy together with its advantages or other ways. Before we go back to Kaduna, before we go over to Kaduna to get the views of our other guys there, we were talking about catalytic greenhouse cultivation of tomatoes, which is our core concern this morning. What are the advantages of greenhouse cultivation versus open field cultivation of tomatoes? And how, therefore, does this policy become an incentive?
Thank you very much. The advantages of adopting greenhouse farming for tomato production is overwhelming. in the sense that because tomato is such a sensitive plant that needs serious care, but with the introduction of greenhouse, it means you are growing the tomato in a controlled environment or in a sterilized chamber where you are able to guard against biosecurity, those things that can make the tomato to become vulnerable to diseases and attack. So when you adopt greenhouse, you are not contending with pathogens. To a large extent, you are able to screen unwanted agents of diseases. That is what I call pathogens. Those agents, bacteria, viruses that can lead to mass destruction. For example, the tuta absoluta. If you adopt greenhouse and you screen those that are not permitted to come into the greenhouse, because tuta absoluta, you can pick the egg somewhere and enter the greenhouse if you don't take proper care or sanitize yourself before you go into the greenhouse. There is every tendency that the place can be infected with diseases. That is why greenhouse, why it is also very is advantageous over the open field cultivation, is that it also gives you advantage to regulate the quantity of water you dispense to irrigate the tomato. Because most greenhouses, for example, the one we use, comes with a timer, irrigation timer, that dispense water according to the prescribed quantity straight to the root of the tomato plant. So that does not give room for spill. You know, when you irrigate with shower or boom, you are also irrigating what you have not planted, which is weed. And when you adopt greenhouse for tomato production, you are eliminating the cost of taking care of weeds, because your water is dispensed straight to the root via deep irrigation system that normally come with the greenhouse. So there's no water spill within the tunnel, which eliminates the chances of weed growing within the system. And where it does, there's what we call weed mat. That's what we call weed mat, which you spread within the area where you are not cultivating the tomato. It also prevents weed from growing. Again.
Now, we'll actually come back to you. We'll actually come back to you for you to complete this explanation. I'm in love with the drip irrigation system that is applied in the greenhouse, because it's the ultimate in the irrigation business. Now, let's go over to Kaduna, where we have Sani Danladi. Sani, you are the secretary of the Tomato Growers Association of Nigeria and chairman of Kano State chapter, of that association. You have listened to our conversation, which of course came from all perspectives, and we would like you to also come in here, let us know how your association feels about the new policy, and of course how does the policy, of course, serve as a catalyst to the production of tomato.
Much. From our own angle as a farmers, we are very much happy about this policy, because that is what we have been agitating for the last 10 years back, because we are always having a glut during the harvesting period, more especially during the dry season and wet season. For instance, if you look at what you have said about the total production and the total consumption we need to, the total wastage, if you reduce the wastage, it will complement to make Nigeria self-sufficient in terms of tomato production. Because we have a post-harvest loss of more than 45 to 50% of our total production. So in this aspect, we are very much happy about this policy. The only thing that I want to say is that I want the Federal Ministry of Agriculture to enlist the tomato farmers into the growth enhancement, which if it is, because before I heard what the Assistant Director said, the horticulture farmers are not included in the growth enhancement scheme before. So, but now we hope that if there is any assistance that we can get from them, that one will improve our own production. For instance, now, what the man using greenhouse is saying that is the fashion of the greenhouse production. Last month I went to Antalya, that is a set in Turkey for First African Turkey Agricultural Business Summit. In that state, I have never seen a place where tomato is produced in an open place. More than 10, 50, 30 hectares, you see it all in greenhouse, in a controlled environment. The only thing is that the cost of installation of the greenhouse, that's what matters first. But if you talk about the cost of production, it's less than half of the total cost of production in an open field. So that is why we are stating for the federal government. We welcome the policy, but there are so many things which need to be addressed. For instance, the post-harvest loss, which is incurred during harvesting or even production, then also our form of transporting tomato from northern part to the eastern or western part of the country. We are using raffia basket before, and now with the help of other agencies like James Poe, which is always in our side to teach our farmers how to reduce the post-harvest loss from our farm, how to use plastic crates instead of raffia basket. But the only thing that the cost of the plastic crates is more than what we can expect to get, because a single crate of 20 kilograms, 25, is cost at more than 2,000 naira, while the raffia basket is 300, 400 naira. But the loss we incur is less than 1% compared to the use of a raffia basket. So we welcome all these policies. There are so many issues which needs to be addressed. Then these issues, if it needs to be addressed, farmers need to be taken along during the formulation of this policy or implementation of this policy. Going by what Alhaji Sani said, this break given to those importers, for we to start seeing the impact of this policy, it may take us at least 2 years now, because they are importing much. They are dumping it in our neighboring countries. Even some, they are even bringing it into the country. So that's why we are calling the relevant agency to put their eyes on alert, so that when the policy is start implementing, all those importers from the neighboring countries by ECOWAS treaties needs to be stopped. So that if you want to import it, let you import it in through sea, like what is done in the rice sector. In rice sector, if you see, the policy of Anka Borowa doesn't make any impact, but only the ban of importation through land border, that makes the impact. That makes the farmers go back to farm. So if it is done in tomato sector, also this one will help. It will make the companies to come back for backward integration, so that they can come and meet the farmers, so that they can assist, so that we can produce more. Because this tomato you are seeing, you can produce it within 60, 70 days, you will start harvesting. So it's not a matter of it's not a crop whereby it will take 5, 6 months before you start harvesting it, and you can repeatedly using it. More especially if you are using greenhouse, you use indeterminate varieties whereby it will take you 3 to 4 months harvesting, 3 to 4 months harvesting, so that this one will complement the deficit that we're experiencing before between April to September. That is when the deficit of the tomato is there, because it is in this period that you will see the price goes higher. So, but this policy, we hope it will regulate so that the price will stable, so that we farmers will not be able to sell our tomato during the growth period at less than 10 naira per kilogram. If you consider now it is more than 400 naira per kilogram. So you see the margin. So we want this policy to be strengthened, and all the relevant agency has to put in their own eyes on it, so that because those packers in Lagos, they are always busy. They are looking for any loop, so that they will not come and they want to come and patronize our own product. That is why we are thanking the Dangote Group for installing this company with this capacity. And we have only 2 or 3 of its kind, which is less than the Dangote production, the one in Gombe and the one in Ikara. All those two will complement so that they can produce and process what we need for our country. But the policy is very good to us.
All right, Alhaji Sanle Danladi. Sanle Danladi, thank you very much there for your comments. I just wanted to ask you before we return to our guests here in the studios in Abuja with us. Now, let's take what we know as a common experience. At some point in the course of the year, the price of tomatoes, goes down. At some other point, you go and then they are telling you a basket is, almost times 5 or 6 the price at which you bought it. How do you explain this cyclical spike in prices of tomato? Is there any sense in which this policy might now conduce to, let's say, price stability of tomatoes? Not that you go there, at some point you can buy 10 balls of it for 200 naira. Next time you go there, they're telling you 1,500. If you don't want to buy, move on.
That is, of course, yes. For instance, if the processing companies are working perfectly, so that growth will not come. And then the production period. Tomato is a kind of a crop whereby it doesn't like much temperature. So even the tuta absoluta usually used to come during the temperature when it is about 37 to 40. So on that very period, it will ravage almost all the production. So with the use of this, if the processors are there, they will uptake our own goods on a right time, so that the price will stable. For instance, if you come out, you have said you buy it today, 500 naira per basket of 50 kilograms. Then in the next 1, 2, 3 months, it will then you will find it 40,000, 30,000 naira. Last year, even at the farm gate, some farmers sold their tomato 40,000, 30,000 naira, because Nigeria love to take fresh tomato. But there are some issues which we have to address it. One, we have to, our research institute has to work off, because up to now, we don't have any variety breed in Nigeria for tomato. Secondly, the cost of production needs to be addressed. To cultivate a hectare of tomato, you need not less than 600,000 naira. So it's more than any forms of crops you know in terms of cost of production. Thirdly, the companies need to be there ready to uptake our own production. Fourth, then the greenhouse needs to be addressed. The issue of greenhouse is that why can't we come back and see what can we produce in that raw materials? Like it's just a galvanized iron. Why can't we produce it here so that we can reduce the cost of importation, even the cost of you are buying there, you are buying a galvanized iron and pipes like that. In exchange rate, we are using our exchange money to take it out. We have steel companies where they can fabricate all these things. The ladle that we use to cover it, the dripping materials, which are all pipes of PVC, I think we can produce it there. So if you can produce locally and consume our own, we can reduce the cost of production, and the farmers can produce more, so that the issue of that fluctuating of price can be addressed. But whereby all the issues are not addressed, definitely expected almost every year, because we farmers we suffered much. It is only almost 70% of the farmers used to lose during the production. It is only 30 to 20% that are enjoying that one, because during that period, it's not in every farm that you can produce. Tomato is kind of a crop whereby if your neighbor transplant 30 days before you transplant, it will affect your own. Your own will not yield good, because you need to transplant almost in difference of 2 weeks, so that in a sector, on a cluster, so that if you can segregate, we can segregate the production, the transplanting, then we can complement the issue of this higher price fluctuating between the month of May to September. This is the highest period whereby the tomato is costing. Even if you take this year, it's less than what you buy it last year. Last year, by now, it is about 40,000 naira. But as I'm talking to you now, it is about 18 to 20,000 naira per basket of 50 kilograms, which is a very on a high cost also. So if you need to address this, there are so many issues which need to be addressed. We have to sit together with those policy makers. We are on the field, we are on the farm always. That's what we only know, that the farming. We can give them the good advice. If they can follow it, we'll go out of this. But otherwise, you may end up stopping importation. If you didn't reduce the cost, the post-harvest loss, definitely those importers, they will still be crying about the shortage of the pest.
Thank you very much, Senator Lady. I'm so impressed with your vast knowledge, in this area. Thank you very much indeed. We may return to you in the course of this discussion. But right now, back to Abuja, and let's talk to the Dr. Razak Oyeleke. Now, that is this deficit of 500,000 metric tons between the local requirement and local production. Now, wouldn't the policy make tomato more, expensive and unaffordable to the common man, as Kingsley raised that issue of fluctuation, in price, which Sani Danladi has addressed as a farmer. Now, how would you address that as a policy maker and implementer?
Thank you. To address the gap, let me put it in correct perspective that currently in Hull we need about 6 million metric tons of fresh fruit tomato to be produced to be self-sufficient in terms of local consumption in our domestic homes and in our factories. Out of these 6 million metric tons, we are currently producing just 1.8 million metric tons. But mind you, for our fresh fruit tomato consumption, we need about 2.4 million metric tons. And we still have these post-harvest losses that ranges between 40 to 50 metric tons percent per annum. So to bridge this gap, what the federal government is doing in totality is to bring all the stakeholders together. We know the needs of our factories, about 4 million metric tons. We know the needs of our farmers. So in Hull, the federal government is addressing the needs of the stakeholders by putting in these policy measures and complementing the measures with a number of programs which I listed before, and Danladi mentioned it. Farmers are being enlisted in this DS, Growth Enhancement Support Program. They will be given critical inputs of seeds and agrochemicals. And as we are addressing the needs of the farmers, the processors are waiting to pick what they are producing. And there's a moderation through this National Monitoring Committee being set up to monitor the implementation of this policy. And in the policy monitoring team, we have the farmers in the team, we have the processors, we have the bureaucrats, the civil servants to moderate what is to happen. So with the Anchor Brag program, the needs of all the stakeholders along the value chain are being addressed. And I want to mention the need for this greenhouse to complement our open field production. Through our open field cultivation of tomato, we can only do in the average just 15 metric tons with our local varieties. And the hybrid tomato, which is yet to be, hybrid tomato seed, which is yet to be produced in Nigeria, we are working hard by supporting our research institute to come up with breeds that can compete and attain the status of hybrid tomato seed. So until we have our capacity in Nigeria to produce this hybrid, and mind you, all over we have about very few countries in the world that has and that are in this customized business of producing hybrid seeds. So government is supporting our farmers with critical seed by importing to some extent to complement the improved seed variety we have from our research institute. Now it is being supported. Now it's in Ibadan with outstation in Kano and Gombe. So we are supporting the local research institute to be able to increase the capacity of our seed, to be able to do more, even to increase our yield from 15 to 60 metric tons. But from the greenhouse tomato shade net, by a dimension of 24 to 10 square meter, you'll be able to have about 90 metric tons of tomato, compared with our effort in the open field, which is just about 15 metric tons. To be able to meet that 6 million metric tons of tomato, fresh tomato fruit we need in Nigeria, we have to supplement our open field production with greenhouses. And the policy is to bring down the cost of this greenhouse considerably. And they can bear witness that with the introduction of this policy, they are relieved, they can bring in some of this. And it will encourage our youth.
That's fine. Just hold on a second, Dr. Yoleke. Yes. 1 or 2 points. You heard Alhaji Sani Danladi speaking earlier, and one of the key issues he touched on it has to do with the breed of tomatoes that they use for cultivation. Now you're talking, he was saying, look, let the research institutes do some more work. You're saying you have outlets in Kano and Gombe. Of course, he's in Kano. What is the trickle-down effect? Are the farmers actually in possession of these improved varieties of seeds for tomato cultivation? Or is still work in progress in the research institutes, and therefore, when might we expect feedback from this?
Yes, the federal government is currently assisting the Nigerian tomato farmers by supporting them with imported hybrid seeds to some extent. But we know we have not met the total requirement in terms of seed requirement. That is why our research institute is being supported to come up with better local variety that will do more. So, in the two way, government is supporting the research institute, and we are importing hybrid seed to complement the needs of farmers in terms of hybrid seeds they need.
Well, thank you, Dr. Yoleke. Just before we go to Lagos, Kirian, I would just like to clear this up. Back again to Kano, back again to our Kaduna studios, where the chairman of the Tomato Growers Association, Kano State Chapter is. Of course, he's the secretary of the National Association. Back to you again, Sani Danladi. Of course, you listen to Dr. Yoleke. Do farmers have access to the imported hybrid seeds that Dr. Yoleke is talking about? What are still the challenges that you face in terms of getting high-quality seeds for cultivating tomatoes?
We have access to that seed from the market. Let me be sincere to ourselves. There is no any single hybrid seedling given to our farmers.
That's what I simple. Is he continuing? We seem to have lost
make a good research so that they can come out with a good good seed. Even if it is not hybrid, as he said, you can improve the quantity, the output from 15 even to 40. Even if it is 50, 40, it's okay as far as open field is concerned. As I've spoken to you last time earlier, this tomato we are seeing, the hybrid we are getting is almost from the market. It is those the agro dealers who are importing the agro input, they are importing it. So if the government say that they want to give it to farmers, definitely, actually, I don't know when it was given. The only thing that they give us the OPB last 2 years. That is the UC Royal Grande from Federal Ministry of Agriculture. We thank them for that. But in terms of hybrid, we didn't get it. That is why we are asking the federal government to re-equip our research institute, to re-equip the Bank of Industry, to re-equip the Bank of Agriculture. Those are the keys or the issue whereby we need to address them, so that even if we are importing, let us get the finance very easy. For instance, the Bank of Agriculture, which is supposed to handle all this, but they don't have the capacity. So we are asking the government to recapitalize the banks so that they can go for they can meet the demand that we expect from them. But in terms of the hybrid, definitely it is a very serious issue. Our research institute need to be addressed, need to be re-equipped so that they can perform to their expectation.
Thank you very much indeed, Donlady. We've had you. And now back to Lagos. The two gentlemen in Lagos there, Chief Umofia and Sani Dangote. You are in the manufacturing aspect of or production aspect of what we're talking about this morning. We've raised the issue of hybrid seeds, and then what should be the role of research institutes in Nigeria with respect to churning out hybrid seeds for farmers. And now Danladi also talked about how the other stakeholders, including the banks, should be fortified to play their own role in the entire process. Now, I want to get your reactions. I'd like to begin with Sani Dangote.
Actually, what the lady said is correct. If we can get our research institutions to work together and come with a better hybrid seed, it will enhance the capacity and also the yield per hectare. Currently, like you had, the yield is maximum 15 tons. Most of the farmers get even far less. But what we are also doing is not only the issue of the seed, it's also the seed housing, which means how do we raise the seedling to come to, how do we raise the seed to a seedling level, which means we first incubate it in a greenhouse, which we are now going to set up a very large seedling greenhouse in Kano before the next season. We're hoping to put up almost about close to 30,000 square meters of a greenhouse that will breed only seedling that will be of a high variety. This we intend to now begin to sell to the farmers through the CBN Anchor program. So now farmers will now have the first kind of well organized and all the total value chain where they get a very high yield seed which is grown through the seedling and now will be given to them for transplanting through the Anchor program, which will we can start to see the impact of the higher yield per hectare. As Sani said, it is very costly to work on 1 hectare of tomato. It's most expensive compared to any other crop. It costs farmers close to 700,000 per hectare. But the good thing about this, what we are starting, to raise the seed through a greenhouse and then transfer the seedling to the farmers to go on direct planting, it will guarantee a farmer at least a certain yield of maybe 50 tons per hectare and above, depending on the mechanization or the consistency of the farming practice. Now, with that program, we now will guarantee farmers a guaranteed price uptake, which means cost plus the margin, which will agree with farmers, and we will guarantee farmers that will buy at that price. Now, this will enhance farmers' fortune, will make farmers to be much more better off than they were in many decades, and also will guarantee the factory full production throughout the season. Thirdly, also, we are also proposing through this same Anchor program where we bring in all the necessary agri inputs in terms of fertilizer, in terms of nutrients that are needed for the proper growth of this, to achieve this yield per hectare. Through the same Anchor program, we want to ensure farmers that they will have access to this. Going to the issue of Bank of Agriculture, we believe it is important to really have Bank of Agriculture in the forefront of this agri development. Otherwise, funding is a serious challenge, if not because of the central bank governor passion for agriculture. Definitely, this kind of improvement we are seeing in agriculture would not have happened at all. We know he's committed, and the bank, as central bank, also is committed to ensure that there's a big boost to the agricultural sector. But we call on the government to speed up the capitalization of Bank of Agriculture so that they can take the lead in this drive to ensure farmers have access to good funds, I mean at a lower rate, that's affordable and that's relative to the agricultural sector. And Bank of Industry to come forward also and play another role in industrializing the sector, which we believe with this put together, we should definitely have a much better yield per hectare for farmers, and price fluctuation will be addressed once we can have more greenhouses coming and producing within the lean period of the tomato production, we will definitely have consistency in a lower price. So for we, the industries, it is in our benefit to ensure there is more production in the fresh tomato, so that price will be stable and we'll be able to get a better price. What we are also going to do is not only providing the farmers, we are also encouraging more additional farmland to be put into production. We are hoping we should put up almost about 3,000 plus this coming season into additional production. And if we use the seedling, we are expecting at least, we are going to do a lot of mechanization to ensure proper spacing of the seedling. With that, we expect probably to have more than 70 tons per hectare. With that in place, we are definitely going to add about 2 million tons into the supply chain, which means it will bring Nigeria to almost over 4 million tons in the first year. So we hope with this issue we'll be able to get good momentum, and by 2018-2019 season, definitely Nigeria should cross over 6 million tons, provided, like I said, the implementation of this policy is very critical. If government is serious, as we have seen that they are, the implementation process now, it needs to be set up properly. We know these industries have stacked their warehouses with tons of tomato, more than what they need per season, more than what they need probably throughout this year. We need to ensure that we do not allow them to keep bringing in more through other sources, that they can deflate this project, this policy, and make it of no effect. And we hope we all work together for the betterment of this country. Thank you.
All right. Yes. Okay. You are on, Chief Umofia, please.
It's probably there.
Chief Umofia, I want to hear from you on the issues raised so far. What's your reaction?
That keeps the price up to this moment. Investigation will prove to you that because the retail tomato pack, retail tomato produced by us, we managed to keep the prices not to be increased. That's why the fresh tomato price was checkmated also not to be higher than last year, because of the fact that this ban alone has actually given us advantage to produce first time up to 24% of our store capacity since we started production in this country. But people think, or some of the government people think that production alone will solve the problem without manufacturing. My friend Alaji Sani is more of farming and concentrate of tomato. I am more of taking all the excess that has been wasting in this country to make it back to bring money to checkmate the prices, because if farmer has lost nothing in his farm this season, it means he has more money in his pocket. So next season, if there's any shortage of tomato at all, there's no need of increasing unnecessarily. That's why this year, I assure everybody and check to the market, retail tomato pack has not increased money because Erisco Foods refused to increase any money. Rather, we gave 5% discount, especially for our Muslim brother that is fasting now. And by Monday, we are going to give further discount on our products. That's why retail tomato pack has not increased 1 naira in this country for this season. And we are sure to keep it again by next year. So what I'm trying to say is that if farmers government continues to support farmers without processing, like retail pack we are doing, I think it may not last long, because even with the outgrower support, it's not on tomato. Tomato has maximum of 5-6 days to spoil. So it has not enough capacity to absorb all what is. Right now, we are not producing well. But the one we are producing in our farm now has not been utilized well. We are not mopped it out. So that's why we set up a 450,000 metric tons of tomato processing factory in Nigeria to be able to meet Nigerian needs and even export. But government keeps to, I think about tomato in this country, only farming, fertilizer, this one. We have our own farms, but we know where is more important is manufacturing aspect of it. To process it, what we are doing now, it takes more money in processing the type of factory we have than farming. And I assure you, if you don't take it off on the farmers this year will lose money, next year they will run away. Then there's scarcity, they come back again, they have a lot of tomato again, they lose money again, they run away. They are making it ton by ton. And that's what I'm trying to do now. If we can be able to mop up all the tomatoes that people say is 50%, I stand to be corrected. What tomato we are wasting in this country over 75%, 50% to the point of the market or the point of factory. Because they have been taking time to go there, before you know, tomato deteriorate hours. Only in hours and hours it continues to deteriorate. So before, because we don't have a good packaging system, good transport system, these things affect tomato business. As the biggest one in tomato price in this country and the Africa, I know what I'm talking about. Only when government will help this country, help ourselves to be producing to export. People like us have been sacrificing for this nation and make sure we put all the required, but they are not supported. We are losing money. Until now that government has banned this tomato is when our production capacity continues to grow. If we produce more, we guarantee more price to be cheap. So that's why people like Alaji Dangote, they are on to produce to supply us. People like us. But I have my own facility. We have in this country producing by dry tomato and fresh tomato. We didn't discover the technology and without support. But if we've been supported, like it's expected to be, actually Nigeria will be talking about earning $500 million, $1 billion in tomato export because we have the capacity. So the problem of tomato not getting more price than this year than last year is not only because the farmers farm more. No, it's because we managed to keep the retail pack. Because if you are buying good product of your own country in your own country product, you'll be less assured than the one they are bringing that kills our soul and kill our money, our economy. So what one we choose? We better choose the one that will give our soul to be life and make the economy to grow for the benefit of others. So we should be supported wholesomely, wholesale of all of us together, so that the Nigerian economy will move forward. At the same time, we want it. If we keep doing only farming without processing of all food items, we may have problem in near future because farmers require to be paid well to continue to be in farm. We should respect them to having us to feed in this country. Without food, nothing is happening. China feeding themselves, India feeding themselves. Why must they be dumping in this country? We allow them. So we assure Nigerians that ban is standing, and we are going to make sure things will work better. Earlier you said about greenhouse. Greenhouse is only good for fresh tomato for the local consumption. Industrial tomato require no greenhouse. I stand to be corrected. It has not been done in America and China.
All right, Chief Eric Umofia, thank you very much there for your elaborate response, of course, along with Alhaji Sani Dangote. But just one point before we let you go, gentlemen, because we are pressed for time already. This question is great, of course, to Alhaji Sani Dangote, who's Vice President of Dangote. Now, we keep talking about post-harvest losses and all of that. On this program, some time ago, we took on the Lakaji project. Lakaji, of course, has to do with intermodal transportation for agricultural produce along certain corridors of the country. But what, in your opinion, will be one of the quickest ways to address post-harvest losses? Would the advent of refrigerated trucks or refrigerated warehouses in strategic locations be an answer to this? And isn't that an investment opportunity for others?
Yes, I know about the Lakaji project. Well, the important thing is really to look at the post-harvest losses. First of all, is like what the lady said, giving them plastic crates rather than the rapier baskets, because then it can hold less volume and the weight and the bottom is not heavy. And then also the means of moving out from the inter-farms out to the market is another second option. Most important is the uptake from the industry. As you are aware, tomato maximum 3-4 days it start to deteriorate and get rotten. So once there is a continuous uptake from the industry, and also they have the logistics to move it easily from the inter-farms to the market position, and they use the crates, plastic crates instead of rapier, definitely you will curtail the post-harvest losses. Any other thing somebody talk about moving in refrigerated containers is not true, because there's no tomato, in fact, doesn't want to be put in a refrigerator. It just need in an ambient temperature, within 15-20 degrees. That's fine. But you don't need to put tomato in a freezer or in a cold chain. It doesn't require that. If you go anywhere else where they're moving tomatoes, they're not moving them in a cold chain. But the most important is how you keep it. If you keep it in the plastic, then you don't have the issues of rapier punching it and the weight is not too heavy. So with that, you will definitely eradicate. But the most important, that is really the key to solving the post-harvest, is the industry that will uptake all the tomatoes that is produced, or at least the excess that is not sold in the day. What mostly creates this post-harvest is once the farmer brings it to the farm, to the market, there's not enough uptake for the day. It leaves left over. The next day, the third day, it starts to deteriorate. So you can see farmers start cutting the tomato right inside the farm and start laying it on the floor. So because they anticipate the market is, was already saturated. So these are the three most important issues to address the post-harvest losses, which we have worked with the farmers in the north to educate them about the plastic, and they've seen the benefit of plastic. They have transported plastic, tomato in plastic in the recent month to the south and the east, and they've seen that they've saved quite a lot of tomato from being wasted. And we believe we will continue to provide plastic basket to the farmers for their collection. And the industry, like I said, is critical, and we thank the government for this policy. But we must put our farm commitment to ensure it works, and we thank the government for putting all this together, and you also, the media, for bringing it to the high point of discussion so that people can be aware that there's a good quality tomato in Nigeria. There's no need to import and consume what you probably do not know. We can ask NAFDAC for that at another date.
Thank you very much indeed, Sani Dangote. This is Good Morning Nigeria, and at this point we would like to have a break, but when we return, we will do the needful to round off today's edition of the program.
Admission forms for the 2017-2018 academic session of NTA Television College JAWS into its diploma programs are now on sale. The diploma programs are in film and TV production, broadcast journalism, and TV engineering technology. Applicants are required to have at least 5 credits, including English language and mathematics at SSE, NECO, or GCO levels in not more than one sitting. Application forms can be obtained from the TV College Refi JAWS or at any NTA zonal centers nationwide on payment of a non-refundable fee of 7,500 naira in bank draft in favor of NTA Television College. Completed application forms should be returned to the office of the academic secretary, NTA Television College, or the center of purchase on or before 28th of July 2017. For further inquiries, please call 0806 980 9807 or 0703 660 7155. NTA Television College, training you to be the best you can be.
Hear the call of change. Stand up, Nigeria. Change is here and it's going to stay. Change begins with you. Oh yeah, make we go. Go to so let the change begin from within. Look at you, oh Geruola. Change begins with you and me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me.
All right, welcome back, and just in time for us to take reactions from our viewers. We'll just take a couple of them now. Dele Jack Solomon tweets, the government should be meticulous about this policy, that's the national tomato policy, as the local rice and poultry policy ended up raising the prices of the products.
And Victor Hiosumwa says that the tomatoes policy the tomato policy is a good initiative. It will boost local production and employment. But why is tomato still expensive?
That's right. Kieran and some of the guests were already speaking to aspects of that a moment ago. Dele Jack Solomon, that's the last one we're taking now. Despite the supply gap, about 40% of fresh tomato produce is lost due to inadequate storage. A need for 24-hour supply in Nigeria. Alhaji Sani Dangote, joining us from our Lagos Network Center, already gave his views on that. Of course, there will be another opportunity for them to also speak to this. Would like to go over to our Lagos Network Center to thank our guests who've been part of this discussion. You can see the Vice Chair of Dangote Group, that's Alhaji Sani Dangote. Thank you very much. It's in cap, it's in the hat. And of course, to his left, and that's to the right of your screen, the motif on his jacket and his trouser, it's tomato color. Alhaji, Chief Eric Murphy, always very passionate about all of this. We hope that, you gentlemen in the manufacturing chain were more delighted now. In the past, it used to be an embarrassment. You go to my two, they'll be telling you that this is Ghana tomato. Gentlemen, thank you for being part of our conversation this morning.
And also, we'd like to thank Dr. Razak Oyeleke, who is the Assistant Director, Horticulture, Federal Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development. Thank you very much for your policy perspective. Thank you indeed for coming. And of course, our friend here who is a specialist in the greenhouse tomato farming, Kayode Oluwasomi. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much. All right, and then we also would like to express our appreciation to Alhaji Sani Danladi, who joined us from our Kaduna Network studios. He's the chairman of the Kano State chapter of the Tomato Growers Association of Nigeria. Of course, at national body, he is the secretary. Sani Danladi, thank you very much for your insight, and we hope to have you some other time.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right, so that does it for Good Morning Nigeria today. My name is Kingsley Osadolo. We appreciate your tuning to the program. The program